What is this? You know what? Why don't we start off strong, huh? A statement by Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, on Twitter, no less. This claim about election fraud is disputed. Hit me with it, Donald Trump. What's up? Looking all official?
Thank you. This may be the most important speech I've ever made. I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months.
True.
And lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time.
Remember that the reason why many of those important swing states took so long to count the mail-in ballots was because of legislation introduced by Republican state legislators. Keep that in mind. When you hear Republicans complain about how long, it's the exact same as when Republicans complain about the fact that Democrats are the ones who implemented the 50-vote majority for the Senate. It was because Republicans were deadlocking everything else. The only reason... Republicans love stonewalling legislation and voting, okay? So, yeah, all right.
Time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote.
Yeah, you got to provide your name and an address, and that's all it takes, because historically there's been next to no evidence of any meaningful voter fraud to have ever taken place in the United States. Keep in mind how undemocratic and un-American claims like this are. What they're trying to do is put up walls in between you and your most fundamental constitutional right, the right to vote. Every time they implement another wall, every time they try to erect another barrier, they are doing so without evidence for its necessity.
President, I have no higher duty than to defend the laws and the Constitution of the United States. That is why I am determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege.
The Chinese.
For months leading up to the president.
Hugo Chavez, the Venezuelans, the Mongols, the Mongol hordes, people. They're very big. They're very nasty. They tell me, lots of people tell me the Mongol hordes, they don't take prisoners, people, and they're all coming for us. They're coming for me. They're coming for America. They're going to come across the ocean, and they're bringing with them Biden ballots.
Election. We were warned that we should not declare a premature victory. We were told repeatedly that it would take weeks, if not months, to determine the winner, to count the absentee ballots, and to verify the results.
Damn, sucks you guys implemented state legislation that made it take so long to count those ballots then, huh? Guys, remember how quickly Florida sorted this all out? That's because they had laws that allowed them to count all this earlier. California, I'm pretty sure, is still counting ballots. It all comes down to state legislation.
My opponent was told to stay away from the election. Don't campaign.
What?
We don't need you. We've got it. This election is done. In fact, they were acting like they already knew what the outcome was going to be.
That's such a sneaky... Oh, I love that, dude. While the Trump administration and Republicans were literally claiming, Tim Pool said that they were going to get a 49-state sweep. Republicans were delusional about Trump's chances, and now they're saying the fact that the polls pointed in favor of Biden and Biden won is actually evidence that he didn't win. The more confidence you have in the results of your election coming in your favor, the less likely it is that it'll actually come out in your favor. Amazing. I love that.
They had it covered, and perhaps they did, very sadly for our country. It was all very, very strange.
How does it feel to get backstabbed by Barr?
Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint a winner, even while many key states were still being counted. The constitutional process must be allowed to continue. We are going to defend the honesty of the vote by ensuring that every legal ballot is counted, and that
except for the millions of ballots they try to get thrown out in PA.
No illegal ballot is counted. This is not just about honoring the votes of 74 million Americans who voted for me. It's about ensuring that Americans can have faith in this election and in all future elections.
Yeah, so this is completely done. This is over. At this point, the Trump administration's continued publicity campaign for overturning the results of the election, overturning the election of President-elect Joe Biden. This is basically just about fundraising for him. Remember, half of the money you donate to this whole Stop the Steal shit goes towards paying down Donald Trump's campaign funds. Broke Donald Trump, who's facing a lot of debt when he gets out of office, okay? So at this point, this really is just about paying down as many debts as possible. He doesn't want to be held to account for all the money that he spent convincing the American people. You know, but he wants to keep it going, too. He's actually floated the idea, apparently, of not only not going to Biden's inauguration on the 20th, but actually having a 2024 presidential rally on the day of Biden's inauguration. How unbelievably petty. Like a child who shits himself and throws a hissy fit on his older brother's birthday to get some attention from the parents. I'm not kidding. That idea has actually been floated. I'm not joking. Unprecedented in American history. And some of you guys may have noticed a change in tone between how I handle this now and how I did a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I guess, because it's been a while since I streamed. And to be perfectly honest, I love the riffy sort of comedy vent on this kind of stuff because it's all very silly. How am I supposed to satirize this? How am I supposed to make fun of this? Can you give me an answer? I genuinely don't know. The way the Trump administration has behaved, the fact that it's a complete clown show, every single thing they do fails. They fail, they lie repeatedly over and over. Empirical lies, like provable lies that you can check from a plurality of different sources. But if you fact check them, you're part of the deep state. Fox News, part of the deep state. William Barr is part of the deep state. It's all part of the deep state now. Everything that disagrees with their perception of reality is the deep state. How do I satirize this? I genuinely ask you, how do you make a joke out of a joke? Dude, we didn't realize how far down you could go. There were comedians who thought it was impossible to make fun of George Bush Jr., of course. There were comedians who thought that was like the bottom of the barrel. Like, wow, this guy lies all the time. His administration is incompetent. He sounds like a fucking idiot. He's a war criminal. He lies repeatedly to the press. He's a jingoistic xenophobe. This is like the bottom of the barrel, you know? But George Bush, though, I think if you actually tally the things that he did, I think arguably quite a worse president than Donald Trump is. But George Bush, in terms of his ability to be satirized, is infinitely more composed than the Trump administration. I genuinely don't know how to make fun of this anymore. There are people that are freaking out all over the place. They're freaking out. Jesus will ensure Trump wins. What do I say to this? I ask you. This is why the real work of this country, of progressives in this country, and of this channel is only just beginning, okay? We've been on the defensive for the past 4 years. Now we go on the offensive, okay? Now we go on the offensive. Now, I'm not a political official. Nobody voted for me. Stop the count. But I, at least to the purpose of my channel, my goal is to obliterate conservative YouTube, if I may. I want this done. I want it cleaned. I want it absolutely made irrelevant. Because right now, we're at a flashpoint where there are two types of human beings in this country. There are people who can accept reality and work within it, and there are conservatives who are like that, by the way. There are conservatives, a great many of them, though it's hard to believe, seeing how the internet is right now. There are conservatives who recognize Donald Trump lost. His behavior is presently ridiculous. There aren't as many of them as there should be, but these people exist, and I would love to talk with these people. But there are also people who have just completely abandoned reality. They have completely abandoned reality. And now they are participants in a cult. It is a cult. There's no other word for it. It is a cult. And typically speaking, you know, as I understand it, when you have a media space that is dominated by groups of people which are separated not by their political beliefs, but rather by their willingness to engage with reality, it is of the utmost imperative for all of us that the people who believe in reality win. Not just for us, by the way. For them, Trump supporters would not benefit from living in the world they think they won. Okay? I promise you, they are as capable of self-determination as a child holding a fork moving towards a house outlet, okay? They, for their own good, all of these whiny, sycophantic, delusional proto-fascists, or outright fascists, need to be picked up and taken away from the fucking outlet. And you take the fork away, too, because You shouldn't give utensils to children. I don't know. They could do something to hurt themselves. Forks can be pretty sharp, you know. Like if you bite down in them hard enough, you can get up in your gums. You got to be careful with that stuff. Babies have baby strength. Powerful stuff. We need to go on the offensive. And that's going to be the goal of this channel. We will have enemies on all sides. We will make enemies of the liberals and the Democratic Party. We have already made enemies of the conservatives on this platform. So that's not new. That's not a change from, you know, our established pattern of behavior. And we have to win because we are fighting existentially for a future for this country which is rooted in reality, such to the point where we can have discourse. If we can't even have discourse, what are we supposed to do, people? How am I supposed to argue with people who are saying shit like the Trump-appointed federal judges are members of the deep state, the dozens of them that have ruled on these cases? What do we say about that exactly? Honestly, what I'm going to be interested in seeing from this point forward is the extent to which the mainstream Republican Party holds on to Trump's legacy or if they ditch him. Because there are some signs, for example, Mitch McConnell has not been fully supportive of Trump's behavior. William Barr, of course, likewise. And there are people in the Republican Party who have, while not openly acknowledged that Trump lost, they've sort of wiffle-waffled. And there are a lot of Trump sycophants who are using this as an excuse to attack the GOP. But my God, what a beautiful future that would be for us. If, like orcs, they end up killing each other. The GOP establishment and the Trump loyalists, they just fight and they destroy each other's political viability, split in half. I'll tell you what, here, this is my lack of principle speaking for me, okay? You can, listen, you can judge me if you want. But if there ends up being a Trumpist third party that gets a significant number of votes away from the GOP, I'm temporarily putting a moratorium on my support for ranked choice voting, okay? Temporarily. Still something we should do, but at least for the meantime, I'll prioritize other things, okay? Because consequentially speaking, the harm that could be done by reuniting their votes would probably exceed any good that could be done by letting people vote green then Democrat, you know? Oh God, these lunatics. In all seriousness, though, in all seriousness, it's impossible to satirize. But I hope all of you will stick with me in this channel. It's going to be a pretty significant change of pace moving away from the Trump administration because Biden's failures as a leader are going to be subtler. It's hard to be less subtle than Trump administration, but they're going to be much, much subtler. It's going to be small. Well, I'm going to talk about Neera Tanden. I want to do a proper takedown of Neera, but it's going to be small concessions. It's going to be incremental reductions to previous policy statements, little disappointments, and every once in a while, there's going to be a big, big fuck up. And the temptation is going to be to only criticize the conservatives until the big fuck up comes around, and then we criticize the Biden administration. But we're not going to be doing that. We're going to do, to the best of our ability, everything possible to enunciate the failures of the Biden administration. And hopefully we can do so in a way to maximize the degree to which we can pull other Democrats left. Because I am not interested in forming some sort of insular, hyper-partisan leftist community that is concerned first and foremost with ideological purity, and secondly with political efficacy. That is not my interest. But you already knew that. If you watch this channel, you know what I'm into. Love me that political efficacy.